If you were just waking up and joining us, we're about to shake up your morning completely. Woj, who is here with us today with the enormous story that the Los Angeles Lakers are targeting UConn's Dan Hurley as their next head coach, preparing a massive long-term offer. I want to bring Seth Greenberg in here because, Seth, when Woj broke this story this morning, you were one of the first people I thought of because of your proximity to their campus. I know you go to their practices all the time, and you've spent a lot of time around Dan Hurley. So I have a few questions for you. Let's start with that first one. Knowing him as you do, take me through what you would imagine his thought process is on this and how you would see this working out if he does decide to accept this offer from the Lakers.
Well, if he decides to accept the offer from the Lakers, he's going to be incredibly successful. He is a savant as a basketball coach, but he's also a brilliant guy. He's a really smart guy who will understand. Everyone goes, well, you know, he won't be able to coach the way he coaches in college. He'll be able to teach. He'll be able to prepare. He'll be able to create a culture. He'll be able to create an environment where winning is the most important thing, and you have to do what you have to do and set a standard. So in terms of the transition to the NBA, will there be a transition? Sure. It's a different game. But in terms of his coaching, the coaching is not a question. Now, understanding playing 82 games, understanding that you're going to play more games than maybe you're going to practice, I think that's going to be a transition. I think the biggest question for Dan Hurley is, you know, when you're coaching in college, your assistant coaches need to know who can play for the head coach. If you're going to coach in the NBA and you're Dan Hurley, your personnel people, all right, your general manager needs to understand, and you have to have a shared vision on what it takes to be successful, the type of player that can play for the head coach. And UD, I see you shaking your head because you lived it, man. You lived it. Culture is going to be the most important thing for Dan Hurley. He has built his career on creating culture, accountability, identity. He connects with people. He's got an uncanny ability to connect with players. I say he's an old school coach with a new school vibe. You know what? Thibs, he demands from his players. Coach Spats, he demands from his players. So, I mean, like, Danny Hurley will be that same guy, but he's got to be aligned with the front office. He's got to be aligned with the personnel people. And then they've got to allow him to surround themselves with two types of things: people he's comfortable with, and then people that can help him grow, which guys obviously with NBA experience. But he's got to be the guy that makes those decisions on staff, and he's got to have some say in personnel. Because if not, in the words of Dan Hurley, when he jokes around and things are not going right, and Woj will get a kick out of this, it'll be brutal. So I mean, I think Dan Hurley will be successful in the NBA. What Woj just said about, I think there are three organizations that he'd consider: the Knicks, the Lakers, and the Celtics. These are iconic brands. And but I think in terms of transition to coaching, there'll be a transition, but he's got to have the correct infrastructure.
Seth, stay close by because I want to come back to you on another topic. But let me just get that reaction from you, D. You are nodding your head along. What thoughts are going through your mind as you're hearing this conversation? What are you thinking about? Particularly, again, I remind everyone, you played with LeBron James at his absolute pinnacle, won championships with LeBron, so you know what that's about.
Yes. When you talk about just being comfortable, being uncomfortable, that's what I'm talking about. It's annoying for somebody to hold you accountable every day. It's annoying. But if you want to win, you have to be held accountable every day. Yes, it's hard to practice hard every day. But if you want to win, you have to go in there with the mindset of getting 1% better every day. Dan is not watered down. He understands what it's about, and he's going to push you every day, and he's going to create those habits. And those are the things that the Lakers need right now, because everybody is not LeBron James. Everybody is not Anthony Davis, and they need to have a locker room of guys with good habits, and that's what they don't have right now.
Drea, I'll remind everyone that you cover not only the pro game, but the college game for us on a regular. You're at all these campuses. You're talking to all these coaches. What is your reaction here?
I love this. I mean, when I first heard it, was it you walked in the makeup room and you're like, all right, show's completely off. We're going to do something completely different.
I walked in, I said, you know, all those tapes we worked so hard on for game one of the finals, unfortunately, those may be internet only.
It's fine. As soon as you said it, the Lakers are targeting Dan Hurley, my mouth dropped, and immediately I thought, that makes sense. There was no other thought in my head except for, oh, that fits. It makes sense. He's so passionate. He's so good at developing relationships. He's also so great at getting guys to buy in. Like, it's not easy for guys to buy into a program. So if you're on this Lakers team that hasn't had very much success, despite LeBron and AD having phenomenal seasons, they did not have success. So if you're all those other guys, why wouldn't you buy into something new? Whatever you were doing in the past was not even close to working. Why wouldn't they buy in? And Dan Hurley is going to bring an entirely new perspective, energy, enthusiasm, but he's also really humble. Like, that's my favorite thing about Dan
I think
Hurley.
you have to remember what the landscape is right now for the Lakers. There is not a great amount of candidates that are available to them. They were probably going to have to take a risk with the hire. So if you're going to be doing that, you're going to be looking for a high upside, almost like you would with the draft pick. You don't have the number one pick. You have a draft pick outside the lottery. You take the highest upside opportunity. So that's why they're looking at people who have high upside, like a name like JJ Redick, like a name like Sam Cassell. Here, you get a very high upside option with a coach who has proven he is excellent in the job. Yes, there are risks associated with it, but you want to take the safest bet you can. That's what they look to be doing.
Before I lose Seth, there's one more question I want to ask Seth Greenberg here. The short-term reality of college sports look like, with all of the money and figuring it all out and still all these legal decisions that are waiting to be made, and so many great coaches, Mike Krzyzewski retiring, Jay Wright walking away from the game when he's had his very pinnacle, now very possibly Dan Hurley, the highest level college basketball coach in the country, choosing to go to the NBA. What does all this mean for college basketball as people like you have always known it and loved it?
Yeah, we saw Jim Harbaugh walk away from a national championship team at Michigan.
Right.
What it says is that right now, year-to-year free agency is absolutely exhausting for coaches. Being fundraisers and coaching at the same time is absolutely exhausting for coaches. Now, coaches are getting paid really well. We've got to find some way to create some type of legislation to have some type of normalcy in college athletics. And then it comes down to money. I mean, like right now, you talk about NIL. It's not NIL, it's pay for play. Let's call it what it is. Enough of the NIL. People that make NIL, that is great, all right? They deserve that. But it's become pay for play. So pay for play basically is a collective. A collective, you've got to create revenue streams. And right now, it's exhausting for the coaches to coach their team, develop their team, and also, raise the money you need to raise. And like if you're talking about UConn in the Big East and their television contract gives them about $5 million a year, that is peanuts compared to the Power 5 conferences. It makes it a little bit harder to maintain the level of excellence. Dan Hurley's got an incredible recruiting class coming in. He's got a team that can three-peat potentially. They're that good. A lot of those guys have come on a discount. So the culture of college athletics is basically right now under a microscope, and the microscope does not look good.
Really well said. I'm glad to hear you say that because, again, this is something I know how much it means to you personally and candidly means to a lot of us.